This is Angela Grayson from the Loving Life Fitness podcast to help others in their fitness journey. All possible.
It's time to wake up. Here we go.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Loving Life Fitness podcast today with Niki Campbell, who is the owner of the Flourishing Group. Hi, Niki. How are you today?
Hi, I'm good. How are you, Angela?
Very good. Excited to talk to you and find out all about you and what you do to help others with their life. So let's go way back, Niki,
Yes.
to your interests when you were going to college, let's say. What was your life like and what was your plan?
Yeah, so it was not this. I will tell you that much. I was in school. It is kind of funny. I started school and thought, oh, I want to be a physical therapist. And I started to take a few classes in the physical therapy program and was not successful with that coursework, and really did a complete change and went into the English program. So I graduated with a degree in English writing and a minor in communications. And for 25 years, spent my time working in corporate communications. This career I have now is almost 7 years in the making. So it's a second career. It's a second act, I guess, is what they say when you become middle-aged, is this is your next act. But yeah, so in college, I was an English major. I love to write. I mean, I'm guessing I'm a creative person. I mean, it took me pretty far in my life. So I really thought that's what I was going to be doing. I thought I was going to be working in communications, marketing, PR, advertising, that type of thing. And then I had some life events happen and took a turn and, reinvented myself a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Do you want to talk about those life events that made you steer your direction?
Yeah, sure. So the previous position that I was in before I started this business and really this path was I worked for McDonald's. I worked in the corporate communications department. I was a speechwriter for their executive team. I traveled all over the country. I got to really experience some amazing things. I loved my job. I absolutely loved it. I loved writing for people. I loved helping them put their best self out there when they were presenting on stages and in front of a lot of people. And, even though people are successful in their careers, there's still a lot of confidence building that needs to be done to stand on a stage and speak with a lot of people and influence people. So I love that part of my job. I could coach them. I could help them really shine, on stage. And I got to be the person behind the scenes. And I love that. In 2014, though, I was diagnosed with 2 autoimmune diseases, and my doctor, my rheumatologist, said to me, these are not going to take you out, so to speak. He said, these are not going to be what are, your ultimate demise, but your lifestyle isn't helping it. It isn't supporting, the healthiest you can be. And what he meant by that was, because I've always exercised, I've always enjoyed exercise and eating well. I grew up in a restaurant family, so I like the idea of cooking, and, I felt like I was pretty healthy. I was probably 15 pounds lighter than I am now, but on the outside, while it looked healthy, I was not healthy on the inside. Was not sleeping well. I was, was working out, but probably not as much as I should. I was eating in a lot of restaurants, and even though I would be eating at really good restaurants, I'm talking like 5-star restaurants, it was still restaurant food, right? It was high in sodium, high in fat, delicious, but not something that you could kind of keep up. My stress levels are really high. I was, traveling in different time zones. And so he just said, this isn't something that is sustainable. He didn't think it was sustainable. So I really had to take a good hard look at what I was doing and how would lifestyle changes impact these two diseases. So one is rheumatoid arthritis, and my grandmother had it, and it was debilitating. And I can remember her physically being unable to do things because of this disease. And it scared me. I was like, I can't envision myself being that person, and having those limitations. So I really dug into nutrition first, because I do really have a love of, cooking and all things food. And then I started to look at some of those other factors. So sleep and stress, they can really aggravate autoimmune conditions. So if you're not getting enough sleep, the inflammation will increase in your body. If you're not eating the right things, it can contribute to that. So I decided to go back to school to get a dietetics degree, and I thought I would just move into a different part of my job. I would maybe go work in a different department that didn't have a lot of travel or whatever. And so I just really fell in love with the idea of helping other people who were like me. And I started doing it with my own colleagues, my boss. I would say, hey, did you know, if you drink, enough water every day, it helps with that brain fog and it helps with energy levels. Or did you know that, sleeping 5 hours a night is not enough? It's not, it really impacts your health. And so I really like that. And eventually, so 2017, I kind of launched on the side my own coaching. So by that point, I was well into my degree, but I had personal training and health coaching certifications completed. So I just started doing that kind of on the side, one-on-one coaching, mostly people I knew because, I still had full-time jobs and that type of thing. So it eventually morphed into 2019 launching this business, the Flourish Group, and working with one-on-one with people who were very much like me, busy, juggling lots, tons of stress. And then we go into companies and do workplace programs. So to help their employees be healthier and happier and more productive and better employees. So I started as an English major and communications, but what I found was I didn't abandon that. Any good coaching, and you know this, any good coach has to be a good communicator, has to be a clear writer, has to be able to tell people exactly what they need to do and how they need to do it in a way that compels them, that influences them, that gets them to be motivated. So I feel like my two worlds of education have like nicely combined. But yeah, I am very type A. So when I decided I was going to change careers, I went fully into it. So I'm a registered diet tech now. Like I said, I have those certifications. And then I went back and got a master's in health and human performance. So I was all in, because that's just the person. It's just my personality, So yeah, so that was the English major turned health and wellness practitioner over the last almost 30 years.
Yes, and you have a lot of certifications and degrees. That's pretty amazing. You just kept going to school, learning more so that you could help people more and more. Do you still do the one-on-one training now that you have your business going? You do? Yeah.
I do. Yeah. So I hired my first full-time employee. So I have one employee who is an exercise science graduate, and she has a nutrition certification as well. So she focuses, and I do as well, on some of the one-on-one coaching. And then my major focus is on the corporate and organizational wellness. But yeah, we still do. And I love it. I love being able to still do the one-on-one coaching.
Mm-hmm. And do you tie it together with the businesses that you help also?
We try to. So
Yeah.
it has in recent years started to kind of blend together, I guess would be the way to say it. We just recently did a health coaching program for attorneys at a big company, and it was paid for by the employer. So that was the first time that we had individual coaching that was sponsored by the employer, because they recognized this group of higher level professionals in the organization were really getting close to burning out, and they were afraid of losing them. And so the coaching that I do is we call it work, life, and well-being coaching. So it kind of blends everything. It's about how do you manage the demands of your career with all of the things that you want to be healthy and happy. And we talk a little bit about career communication and navigating some of the dynamics in the workplace, just because, I've been there. I remember having to navigate those conversations. So, but yeah, we're starting to see organizations be more open to getting that individual coaching for their employees.
Mm-hmm. So my first career before I changed careers was working for the post office.
Okay.
Yeah, and I know a lot of businesses that do have wellness programs, but they're so simple. They're, if you sign up, you can get a pedometer for free if you try to have a goal of working out 3 days a week. If you go and get your wellness checks, you score extra points. Maybe you get a reduction on your insurance premium, little things like that. Seemed like it was never quite enough. That's just a little thing, but not enough to make people get out there and do more to be healthy. What do your programs look like with the businesses that you work with?
So it's really interesting that you brought that up, because what we have found is the best way to develop a program for an organization is to bridge the gap between that wellness program that comes with their health insurance, or if they have an EAP and an employee assistance program, bridging the gap between those offerings and what your employees really want. And I'm not here to compete with or discount those large healthcare providers. Some of that information, I don't have a smoking cessation program. I don't have some of those, incentives. What we do is we'll go into a corporation or a nonprofit or a school and say, let's survey your employees first. And that, again, is where the communications background comes into play. I used to do a lot of internal communications, focus groups, surveys, asking employees what they want. Then we tell them, let's match it up to what you have. So if you get a lot of employees who say, I'm having trouble quitting smoking, great. You have this smoking program already built in. They probably just don't know about it. So we help them identify what they have, and then we tell them communicate that. But EAPs are the most underutilized health benefit, and one of the best things that an employee or an employer can offer employees. So, free sessions with dietitians, free sessions with mental health counselors, but employees don't know about them. And then the final part of that is, okay, if you don't have it and your employees really do want it, and it's typically things like, help me figure out how to meal prep might be the number one request we get for education, workshops, things like that. And if your wellness program doesn't have, somebody who can do that, or, a video that really does kind of get into how does a busy person do meal prepping, then we help them find that content. And so we always say, yes, we have off the shelf workshops that we can do and come in, just to do a one-time thing for your employees. We do health fairs, things like that. But what we bring to the table that's different, and I think is really valuable, is that helping you figure out how to maximize everything you have. You're already paying for XYZ benefits. What in those benefits can also be, communicated better to your employees. We just had a proposal accepted by a local energy company here in Pittsburgh, where they want to do, and I thought this was just so insightful, through this process, they determined that they wanted to do a panel session on elder care. So elder law, senior living, care. What do I do? My parents are aging. So basically they have a population in their workforce that's that sandwich generation. So they are my age, 40s, 50s, maybe even they're in their 60s. They have aging parents, and they're really concerned about the legal, ramifications. That is wellness. So we're going to help them plan this panel session with these experts, because the way I look at wellness is that if it is stressing your employees out, if they are taking time away from their job, missing work because they're running around trying to figure out, where am I going to put mom and dad, or my parent fell and now I need some kind of transition, rehab. That's wellness. You're taking that off their plate. You're taking that stress off of them. And so, did I think 7 years ago when I started and I was doing my personal training certification that a panel session on elder, issues would be part of the wellness planning that I was doing? Absolutely not. But that's the world that we live in. And your wellness is everything. It's your mental, social, environmental, physical, of course. But this is something that they heard from their employees, and they're responding in a way that that actually works. And they can't get that from their health insurance.
That's
So
excellent.
it's
Yeah.
really cool. I'm very excited about the program. We're going to do some things. We're doing a couple of different education sessions, and there's going to be some that are on meal. There's going to be one on meal prep, and there's going to be one on hormone health, things like that. But this to me was like, I love this, because this is going to help somebody who's really struggling with, what do I do with my, aging relatives?
Yeah, I can totally relate to that. A year and a half ago, I had my 96-year-old mother move in with me when my stepdad passed away. And oh my gosh, I can't tell you how many transitions that I went through,
Yeah.
having to figure everything out for her, for me, for the care that I needed to get for her so that I could continue with my life, the mental stress, the anxiety. I'm not the kind of person that gets depressed, but even going into that, not deeply, but, to where I could feel myself being pulled down.
Right.
And just trying to deal with it all. And that's something that happens all of a sudden. And yeah, if my employer would have had a program at the time where, they talked to you about things that I found out about as I went along, somebody just happened to tell me, something that was helpful,
Right.
that happened several times. So having that information just for when the time does come around, you're definitely more prepared, and it takes so much stress and anxiety away to where hopefully you could perform better as an employee, not have to take so many sick days, and just transition into the different way of life, or change your mind about what you're going to do.
Yeah.
I mean, I look back a year and a half ago and I would have done things differently. I really would have, if I'd have known.
And imagine the impact that, the information and education has on that parent's well-being as well, right? Your mother at 96, it's stressful to feel like you're, in between, or you're not settled, or, so yes, it's stressful for you, but it's also stressful for that parent, and it has physical impacts and mental impacts. So, so I love things like that. We do wellness fairs, and we've been doing a lot of them for school districts, and bringing in different vendors. And we had somebody from this local business called Assisted Living Locators, and she helps people who are trying to find places for their aging relatives. And I had a teacher come up to me during the wellness fair, and like welling up with tears in her eyes, and she said, I just took something huge off of my plate because I spent 10 minutes talking to this woman, and she is going to help me. And I was so stressed about this, and I have not had the time, because you're a teacher. You're in the classroom. It's not even like you're here at work, if you're working a typical 9-to-5 job where you can make a couple of phone calls during it. she's teaching all day. And she said,
Mhm.
so when I had the time, they weren't available to talk to me about, what their facilities were
Mhm.
like and what the prices were and all of that kind of stuff. She's like, I literally just outsourced it to this woman and it's a free service to the families. And she said, I'm like, it's like the weight of the world has been lifted. And she's like, I can't thank you enough for bringing this person into this wellness fair. And I thought, wow, I mean, that's to me, that's why I do what I do. And it was just, it was so gratifying to hear that.
Yeah.
So, so with the, corporations or organizations, it's almost different for every one of them just because based on their employee population, it just depends. And that's what I love about it because it's something different all the time.
Yeah, and the name of your company, the Flourishing Group, what a great name. I mean, because no matter who you help, whether it's an individual, no matter what kind of company, a school, elder care, it's all to help people flourish.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
I love the name.
When I came up with it, I got a lot of pushback from people, friends of mine, not pushback in a bad way, but just challenging me a little bit on it, saying it sounds very, it's like too fluffy, right? Like it's, it doesn't, like it's going to make people think that you own a spa or, and I said, but if you look up what the definition of flourish is, it is to have all of the right elements in place. So if you think about a plant, and plants, like humans, can get by with very little attention, right? You water it, you put it by a window or not. I mean, I'm terrible with plants, but you water it, you give it just the minimum things it needs, it'll get by, it'll survive. Humans are the same way. When I talk to clients and they tell me I sleep 4 hours a night and I eat out 4 times a week and, I'm stressed beyond belief and they're still upright and walking around, we can survive on very little attention and self care.
Mhm.
The idea of flourish is that when you have all the right things in place, so when you are sleeping well, when you're well hydrated, when your stress levels are managed, when you're sleeping well, then you excel. You don't just survive, you excel, you flourish. So when we named it the Flourish Group, we were like, this is, and the idea of group meant, for me at least, my vision was there were going to be multiple things, divisions, departments within that that was the umbrella. So the Flourish Group was the umbrella. And then it was, workplace wellness solutions, individual coaching, wellness communication. So I was thinking more, bigger picture at the time. But when I explain it to people, and I'm like, no, that word means something it is really about my vision is that when I can help people find all of those elements that they need to really excel in life, personally, professionally, whatever that might be, that's to flourish. So
Mhm.
it just really stuck with me. And they all agreed now that they were wrong and I was right now.
Woohoo! At that point. Wellness communication. Tell me what you mean by that.
So we do, well, my background, right? Writer for several years. So we've had clients who've asked us to do, we have a client here who's a utility company and they do an employee meeting every year. So all the employees, so like like 1,500 employees or so come together. And during COVID, they did it over Zoom. And so they reached out and said to me, could you do 3 short videos, 5 minutes, like no longer than 5 minutes, on a wellness topic that we can kind of insert into the meeting to break it up, because it's business updates, right? It's the CEO and then the CFO and then the marketing team. And so they realized that making employees sit in front of a Zoom call for 6 hours or 4 hours or whatever it was, that's a lot. So we have done that for them 3 years in a row where we have done some kind of recorded wellness communications. That's also things like wellness newsletters, things that employers want to deploy that, can go on an intranet. I do a lot of writing for clients on topics to put, for articles on their intranet or a blog or something like that. So that's the wellness communications part of it. And that's really like pet projects that I I like to do. I do have it on my plan this year to do a little bit more dedicated marketing towards that. It's just been former colleagues, people who know me and know that I have a communications background. We did I basically wrote and directed. I like to call myself like I was the director of these, but we wrote and produced videos with dietitians from a local health system on simple and budget friendly recipes that people could make who were on fixed incomes. And that was really rewarding too, because I knew that was going to get into the hands of people who really needed to watch their money. But, we know that cheap food isn't always the most nutritious food. And so this was about how do you find, how do you make the most of your grocery budget? And that was a really cool project. I enjoyed working on that.
Yeah, you have your hands in a lot of different directions that really makes your work interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. I do.
And 7 years now, you said you're in?
Yeah. Yeah, just about. It'll be February. It'll be 7 years. So.
Nice. So can you tell me about one of your clients, maybe two of your clients, a success story that you might like to share?
Sure. So I have a one-on-one client. She has long graduated and moved on. She is a great success story. She was the executive assistant to a CEO for a large hotel chain. And when she found me, interestingly enough, this was early on in my 7-year career, she found me we were both in a Facebook group for Peloton users, Peloton bike owners. And she reached out to me and said, I see that you're a health coach. She said, I've been told by my doctor, I need to lose like 150 pounds. So for me, I was like, wow, this is somebody who has a lot of other challenges too, some limits in physical mobility, horrendous travel schedule. Like I've never seen, she went everywhere with the CEO. And she said, I was on our corporate jet on our way home from yet another meeting. And she said, I bought the Peloton bike because I was like, I don't know what else to do. She said, I was sitting on the plane. I bought it online, never tried it. I don't know what I'm doing. So I put together for her, not only the very low impact, very slow to start and to be very careful exercise plan. We put together a nutrition plan, but what was the probably most important thing is that every week in our coaching session, we would look at her calendar. And this is where my 25 years of working with executives and working in that very high stress environment really paid off. I would look at her calendar with her. She'd share her screen. She was in Florida. I was here in Pittsburgh. She'd share her screen and we would go day by day of the next week. And we would figure out where she was going to get her daily walk-in. She would do 30 minutes of either walking or cycling. And, when she was going to have time to meal prep. And I knew by looking at some of those meetings, I would say to her, do you really need to be in that meeting? Are you there because you need to, or are you there because you feel like you have to be there or that you are going to miss something? So we had some really, I challenged her a lot. I said, I think you're taking on too much. I think you need to delegate. I think you need to set boundaries. How can I help you do that? And so she started to do that. She started to delegate to other assistants as she started to say no to things. She really kind of put her, made herself a priority. And when she did that, time opened up. So she ended up losing, I want to say, in the time we worked together, it was 6 months, maybe 9 months. She lost 100 pounds. And it wasn't crazy dieting. It wasn't punishing workouts. It was managing the stress, getting enough sleep, making time to eat healthy meals, making time to do some kind of movement. And she's kept it off. And she credited at the time, she said, those hard conversations with you about my schedule was the difference. She said, because nobody understands my life. Nobody understands how demanding this is. She's like, you were the first. And she's like, I've worked with trainers, I've worked with nutritionists. She's like, you were the first person who was like, I get it. I get it. I've lived your life. I've traveled, maybe not as much as she did, but I've traveled a lot. I understand. And I'm going to help you as much as I can, but you have to take some responsibility for this and you have to set those boundaries. And that was really the key. And I think that's something that people don't realize is so important to the health coaching business, is that you have to help. It's not about the what. People can go online and find workouts and meal plans or calculate their calories. It's the how. I work with so many executives and business owners who are like, good luck. I have no time. I can't get this done. So her story has always, and she was a very early on client and she trusted me, and it was just such a great outcome. And then on the corporate side, I really look at our events like these wellness fairs. The surveys that we get back afterwards are just, they're amazing. People are like, I never tried meditation before, but the meditation breakout that we had, or the Tai Chi demonstration, I've never tried that before. That's something I can implement into my life. So I would say on that side of our business, the success stories really lie in the individual employees and how they perceive that information, how they take it, how they use it. We have a client in Florida who is in the auto parts distribution industry, and they have a lot of warehouse workers, not a lot of office workers. Most of their employees are on their feet all day working in the warehouse. So September, I think it was September, it was Self-Care Awareness Month. So we did a self-care challenge, and it was so basic. It was 30 things to do in September that contribute to your self-care. And it was looked like a bingo board, and it was literally a paper, so we talk about all this like digital stuff and all the things you can do online. Sometimes like a simple piece of paper is all you need. And so my client was like, I don't know how the warehouse guys, because they're mostly men. She's like, I don't know how they're going to react to this. And they loved it. High participation rates, good feedback. Now there was an incentive, right? You had to turn in your bingo card, and it was the honor system. So, maybe, they checked off something they didn't actually do, but she said the response was really positive. They liked it. They were kind of joking with each other about, oh, did you do your 5-minute meditation in your car? Those types of things. So it's the engagement on that side of things, the engagement, the feedback, the surveys. We try to measure it as much as possible. But a lot of this, it's just anecdotal, feedback on the success of it.
So how do you, clients far away like that, how do you work with them? Is it on Zoom? How do you?
Yeah. So for the workplace clients, so for this one in particular, this year we did video workshops. So I will record the workshop. They'll put it on their intranet. We do a monthly newsletter for them that they distribute. They have a part of their intranet that is devoted to all wellness. So like their wellness programs through their health insurance, all of those resources are there. And then we did 4 challenges. So we helped them implement 4 different challenges. So yeah, it's all done, via Zoom or a recorded workshop. We have a wellness platform that we have developed. So if an employer wants to offer their employees the ability to opt in, there's additional resources, things like that. We offer that to clients that we work with more than just maybe, 1 workshop or 2 workshops. They typically are the more long-term clients.
I like that. What about, do you ever go into the public sector? I know you said the school system,
Mhm.
but what about like cities, children's programs,
Yeah.
anything like that? Do you ever do that?
So we have dipped our toes in like the municipality market. So we did a wellness fair for a local township here in the Pittsburgh area. We have a proposal in with another local government that wants to bring more wellness to their employees. We have not done anything in the schools related to children. We tend to focus on an adult population. So we have not done anything like that. We may in the future offer in our facility here workshops for parents to bring children. I'm saying like ages like 10 and up to talk about healthy eating, even get into the topics of, kind of the disordered eating and body image issues, things like that, that they probably need to hear from a much younger age, but in that as they're heading into middle school and things start to get, you know, there's the pressure of looking a certain way and social media and all of the things that are out there, as all of the myths and all the crazy diet things and TikTok, nutrition on TikTok is just absolutely insane.
Yeah, absolutely. I like to see all your posts. You put up quite interesting posts.
Oh,
Yeah,
thank you.
always checking those out. I get the little notification.
And we try to do, it's myself. I have one full-time employee. I have a part-time business development employee, and then I have a freelance marketing assistant. And we really try to split the content between an individual's wellness, things that you want to know as an individual versus things that benefit the employer audience. So it's a balancing act because I only have so many hours in the day.
Absolutely.
General information about health and wellness applies to everyone. So, we err on the side of probably putting out most of that kind of content. Because, whether you're an employer or an employee, that it tends to resonate with them.
Yeah, Niki Campbell needs to get more than 5 hours of sleep also.
Yes. Yes. And that is my one non-negotiable. I talk about that in one of my presentations about my non-negotiable habits. Sleep. I am in bed times like 8:30, but I am for sure in bed at 9 and sleep no later than 9:30, and I get up between 4 and 5. So, I'm between the 7 and 8 hours most nights. I'm not a fun person on 4 or 5 hours of sleep consistently. I mean, everybody has those nights, but
Sure.
yeah, that's my one thing I don't give up on.
What about other things? You said that was one of your things. What about other things?
I'm really good at saying no. I'm really good at setting boundaries. I wasn't always, and so that's something I've had to learn later in life, unfortunately. So anytime I get the opportunity to talk to young professionals, I'm like, set those boundaries now, say no now, understand what your priorities are now, and they're going to evolve with the different, seasons of your life. But if you get good at saying no, if you get good at setting boundaries, your wellness will never suffer. So I'm a huge proponent of, especially this time of year around the holidays when everybody wants something. And, for people with autoimmune diseases, the stress and the lack of sleep and all the things that come with the holidays, it can trigger flare-ups in people. It can, increase inflammation in the body. And it's just not a good place to be. So boundaries and saying no, that would be my other one. And I don't diet. I don't count calories. Like I said, I'm probably 15 pounds heavier than I was when I was looking like I was my healthiest. And I wasn't. I was not healthy. My hair was like coming out in chunks, and I was like, this is no way to live. I don't want to be thinner and completely stressed out. So those are just some of the things, like, when you kind of let yourself, when you listen to yourself and your body, when you're done eating, when you've had enough to eat, and it's not, portioning out everything. Yes, I want you to know what healthy portions look like, but I don't want you standing there with measuring cups at every meal, because like that's no way to live.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Our body will definitely talk to us. It even talks to us and tells us what we need if you listen. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's so hard because we're all so busy, and I get it. I really do. I don't blame anybody who's not in tune, because it's so easy to just ignore that and just push it away. You're like, I'm good. I'm good. I'll just have another cup of coffee. That's probably my dirty little secret.
Yeah.
If I feel it in the afternoon, I'm like, I'll just have a cup of coffee and I'll
No, why not?
power through. So,
Yeah.
it's always a work in progress.
So I had a podcast on Tuesday to do, and I was feeling really tired. I didn't get enough sleep the night before. By the time it was time for my podcast, I was like, how am I going to do this? I had heard earlier on somebody else's podcast about the benefits of cold plunging. And so I've got a pool in my yard here, and it's like 67 degrees. So I had told myself the next time I felt like that, that's what I was going to do. Well, it took a lot of courage,
Yes.
I'm going to do this, and I jumped in the pool. I swam a couple of laps. I jumped out. I tell you what, it was very invigorating. It was better than any cup of coffee ever.
Yeah.
Just, got the blood flow going to the brain, and I just felt alive. I was ready.
Oh, that's so cool. I wish well, maybe not, because I'm in Pittsburgh. So that 67-degree pool water would have felt balmy compared to what it would be here in Pittsburgh. Although we're having like this great stretch of weather. It's in the 50s today, which is unheard of in Pittsburgh in December. So
heck yeah.
So, but I've heard really good things about that. And I think that's such a cool, just simple, quick way that, and that's the thing, like people think wellness is so complicated, and it doesn't have to be. It's those simple things like drinking more water. This is, just getting up and intentionally walking around and moving. During my master's program, I did, for the research class that I did a really extensive bibliography on NEAT, so non-exercise activity thermogenesis, which is all of the activity that we do outside of our planned workouts. So that's like the Apple Watch telling you to get up and stand, counting your, exercise minutes, things like that. It's about being active. And so we really burn through our workouts. We burn like 10% of our daily calories. Most of our movement, active burn of calories, so to speak, is through that NEAT activity. And that is, just taking the stairs, vacuuming and cleaning the house, and it was funny. I saw a creator I follow on TikTok who I absolutely love. And he said, but look how we've made it so that we don't do things like shopping first, like now we're getting delivered, groceries delivered. He's like, I don't even vacuum anymore. He's like, I have a robot vacuum that does the vacuuming for me. I've hired somebody to clean my house. I've eliminated so much of the opportunity to be just active, not so much exercise, but just be active. And I think that was such a great point. I thought about it. I was like, I order my deliveries, but then I'll tell somebody to do that because I'm like, you need time in your schedule. So,
so it has to be a balance.
There has to be a balance, but he had some really good points about modern technology has just made it so easy for us to not move. Even people who do exercise for a living. He said, the majority of my day is still sitting, doing, podcasts or, recording, videos, things like that. So
telling everybody else what to do, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And it is interesting, but I thought we just need to move more in general. And I'm sure I'm not telling you anything you don't know, But yeah, it was funny to hear him say that. Like, he's like, I don't even get up off the couch to vacuum anymore because and as I was thinking the robot vacuum that I have at home.
Every generation has moved less. I mean, think about a couple generations ago when people didn't even have housekeepers unless you were one of the elites, you know. Everybody did their own housework. People had gardens. They would take care of their gardens. Everybody would cut their own grass. People didn't have lawn services unless for some reason, you know, health-wise, you couldn't do it. Otherwise, everybody took care of their own yard. I remember when I first got married, and even my uncles before that, everybody, if the house needed to be painted, everybody would come over and we'd have a house
Yeah.
painting party inside,
Yeah.
outside. But we all did our own work. We fixed our own things, and that kept us more active, cooking our own meals. When I was a kid, we never went out to dinner. Never, ever,
Same.
ever. Yeah.
Same.
And
And I grew up
now,
in a restaurant family. I mean, my family owned restaurants, and still, I mean, we very rarely went out to eat. It was, you know, it was a treat to order pizza, you know, things like that. I think we had to walk places. I walked to school. I lived in a town where, and, you know, it's like people of like my generation, you know, you know, they always say that we were like the feral generation. We just like get up in the morning on a Saturday, get on our bikes and be outside all day.
yes.
And like my mother had no idea where it was.
Yeah.
And it was like 8. I mean, I can't even wrap my head around that. My own, you know, my kids are grown now, but I can't even imagine when they were 8, sending them outside and being like, go play, be back by dinner.
Yeah.
I walked to school every day unless it was like terrible weather. And then we had a carpool in our neighborhood and like one mom would drive everybody to school. But you know, we just walked more. And I think we're actually building a house. We downsized. Our kids, like I said, my kids are grown. And so we downsized and we're building in a new concept neighborhood in our area that has, it's walkable. So it's situated behind some retail and restaurants. And they're also building within the neighborhood, you know, coffee shop, a gym, a restaurant, you know, some other shops so that people can walk to things. You know, I said to my husband, I said, if we're going to go out to eat, we're going to have to walk there.
Yeah.
We can walk there and, you know, get some activity and then, yeah, go enjoy a dinner. But like my nail salon is close. I can walk to that. There's, you know, there's all these other, and they've got walking trails throughout the neighborhood. So I've seen this trend in our area start to really pick up, where in the suburbs, they're trying to create these small town, you know, concepts so that people are more active. And I'm here for it. I think it's going to be great.
Where we used to live, there was an old Italian couple that lived down the street. They were actually from Italy from a long time ago. And they would, every night after dinner, just take a stroll, walk down the sidewalk, talk to any neighbors that were outside. They didn't go far. It was just because they were older, but still a walk. They would take a walk, talk to neighbors, and then walk back home every single night. And that's the way it was, you know, in Italy, in the little towns. You know, people would go out at night after their meals and just walk around, you know, meet their friends, go get ice cream, just sit in the local area where they could, you know, just be outside and get some movement. Now we all come home from work, eat our dinner, and sit in front of the TV or do more work or, you know,
or running the kids around. You know, everybody is so much more active in, you know, activities. Or, but when you said, when you said about they were from Italy, I don't know if you've ever done any research on or just heard of the blue zones. So the blue zones are places in the world where people, like a very high percentage of people live to 100. And so there's a village in Italy, and I'm of course going to blank on what it is, but it's a combination of two things. What you said, the activity. So they walk to get their groceries. They don't go to they're not going to Costco and getting groceries for a month. They go to the market 2-3 times a week, every day, maybe. So it's the combination of that and what this woman found, this researcher, was that it was the social connection, that social connection, having a network. So when she went to this tiny village to do the research, like, why are you living so long? What is different? And they had, some better food choices and things like that. What was it? She said that she, at first, was looked at like, who are you? Why are you here? You're not part of this community. And so they're very protective of each other. They're very supportive of each other. No one feels alone. They just have this incredible connection in this village. And so her research and some other things that, she looked at really talked about how social interaction, social connection is very high on the list of things that you can do for longevity. If you feel connected, if you feel supported, if you feel like you have a good social, group around you, you will live longer. And so, there's one in Asia. Loma Linda, California is a blue zone in the United States. And
That's it? Just one place, huh?
Just one place. And it's really interesting. So if you ever get a chance, look there, they have a website, and there's basically, I want to say there's like 7, tenets of like what contributes to being an centenarian. I can't remember what the name is for living to 100 and living with quality of life. And it's, obviously, nutritious foods and movement and things like that. But that social connection was really, really interesting.
I love that. Yeah. That's great. Something to think about.
Yeah. It's all important.
It is.
Up how healthy we are. If you feel like you have people you can rely on, sure, that's part of it. So,
yeah, friendship, love.
Yeah.
Yep. So what's in the future for Niki Campbell? Anything new?
Gosh, I think we're going to focus on, just really growing in the areas that we've already established. The first few years of being in business, you try a lot of different things. You might throw something out there and see what sticks. And I feel like we know what sticks. We know that we're really good at these 3 things. And so we're really just going to invest in, getting the word out about that. As my husband says, because I told him I would get all of my schooling for this new career done by the time I turned 50. And so I graduated 3 weeks before I turned 50 with my master's, almost 2 years ago. And we were driving home. I went to the graduation, and we were driving home, and he looked at me and he was like, this isn't over, is it? I was like, he said, you're going to get your PhD, aren't you? And I said, I don't know. I said, so yeah. So I love learning. I love being a student. So I think that's probably on the horizon in the next few years. But 2024 is really just going to be, growth within those 3 areas and trying to reach as many people as possible.
Very good. I like that.
Yeah.
Well, if you decide to go for your PhD, good luck with that.
Oh, jeez. It won't be next year. It won't be next year.
Yeah, take a little break. Why not?
Yeah.
All right, Niki, one more thing. So if you were to give our listeners a goal in life, what would that be, and how would they get there?
So I would say my wish for them would be to prioritize themselves. 15 minutes a day. It really doesn't have to be an overhaul of your lifestyle, and pick what you need the most in that 15 minutes. So if it is movement, go for a walk. If it's stress management, do some meditation or some journaling, add that 15 minutes to your sleep. You might add 15 more the next month. So, if you can prioritize 15 minutes a day for yourself, I think that is a really worthwhile goal, and then go from there. Right. And read the book Atomic Habits. Have you read Atomic Habits?
No.
Oh, it's so good. James Clear. And it really is about the idea of how do you get habits to stick, and how do you, it's it isn't just, willpower or discipline. It's finding ways to work habits that you want to add to your life
Mm-hmm.
into what already is working well, right? Because the path of least resistance is how we build habits, right? If you brush your teeth every day, and most of us do in the morning, you brush your teeth, what can you add to that? Can you do your 15 minutes of journaling or stretching or a walk right after you brush your teeth? Like, that's the way you start new habits. You work it into a routine that you already have. So find 15 minutes a day in one of your good routines. So I always say, like, we all have routines where, like you said, we come home from work, make dinner, and then sit on the couch. That's probably not the routine that you want to. You might want to change that and maybe instead of watching TV, do 15 minutes of exercise. But, find the ways in your day that you can slowly add one little habit and do it every 90 days. Give yourself 90 days for a
Yeah.
habit to take hold. It doesn't happen overnight.
Sounds like an interesting book to read. I'll have to check that out.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Recommend it to the listeners. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, Niki, thank you so much for joining me on Loving Life Fitness today. Yes, it was such a pleasure. You brought up a lot of interesting topics. I'm sure the listeners will love listening to you.
I'm happy to chat about it. I love to talk about it. And like I said before we started, I love to talk to people who are like-minded, and we're just out there trying to help people get a little healthier, you and I, and happy to talk about that anytime.
Yes. Yes. Well, thank you so much.
Yeah.
This is Angela Grayson from the Loving Life Fitness Podcast to help others in their fitness journey. All possible.
It's time to wake up. Here we go.